a chat. It's a new Women in Construction Week, so thanks for joining me, everybody. Starting on the top left, Emily, do you want to, well, top left on my screen anyway. Emily, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell people who you are, what you do, and why people need to know who you are?
Hello, I'm Emily Howe. I am the Head of Client Engagement here at the BBA. I've been with the BBA in varying ways for the last 10 years. So I've got experience in quite a few areas, all client focused. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Em. And Charlotte, just below on my screen. Charlotte, introduce yourself. What do you do at the BBA?
Yeah, I'm Charlotte. I'm the Project Services Manager. Only just recently I was a TPC for a year, Technical Project Coordinator for a year, and recently moved into Project Services Manager role.
Amazing. So hot off the press promotion. Well done. It's awesome. Shamila.
Hello. I am Shamila Yusuf. I work as a market researcher. You might have seen me in some of the webinars. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I've been with the BBA.
How long have you been here?
I've been with the BBA for just about 6 months now.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Shamila. Deborah, certainly not least.
I'm the newbie. Yeah, I'm Deborah, and I joined the BBA a week ago as campaign manager, working in the marketing team.
Fabulous. All right, excellent, awesome. Thank you, ladies. So I want to jump straight in quickly. This is about many paths, one mission. Have you always been in the construction space? Who has not been? Deborah, I look at you, for example, to start. You are, you know the field so well. Tell us a little bit about what originally got you into the construction space.
Oh, yeah. So actually, I had a planning background, as in sort of supply chain background.
Yeah.
And I went to work for Crown Paints, or Akzo Nobel as it was, I think about, 26, 27 years ago. And I don't suppose I really thought of it as construction then, because I thought of it as colour and paint and so forth. But actually it very much is construction, and I went into marketing quickly afterwards, and I went into the professional side of the business. So I was, marketing to professionals in construction. And I think one of the things that I would say is that construction skills are really underrated. I see how hard it is to do plastering, for example, or even to do a really good professional decorating job. Yeah. And I think that in the UK, the skills aren't as highly valued as they necessarily are elsewhere. Yeah. And I think that's something we need to change as an industry. Yeah.
It's interesting because you say, a person thinks, you're in the construction industry, and immediately you think the hard hat and the steel toe cap boots. But I can speak for myself. I don't think anyone on the call has ever worked on a construction site before, have we? And yes, no. So it's quite interesting that you say you started in that space. We're all working in roles with skills that are really interchangeable. Charlotte, what led you to the BBA? Was this your first kind of foray into construction, or have you been in that space before?
No, this was my first construction-based job. I actually studied forensic science at uni, so
I'm on
a slight different path. Yeah, I did. I worked in the tech industry as like a temporary job before I started uni, and I went back after I finished, and I kind of it went from soft lines to toys and nursery, and now construction in the same industry. So yeah.
So how have you found it? How have you found that transition, and what kind of led you away from what you originally thought you wanted to do?
I don't really know what led me away. I think I've kind of found this really interesting and kind of stuck with it, although it wasn't something that I wanted to do when I was younger. I can't see myself doing anything else at the minute, which is It's really interesting how your mind just changes when you get experience in a different setting.
Absolutely. And Em, and you've been with the BBA for a number of years. Where does your journey start? What brought you into this world?
So I've actually worked for loosely construction-related companies for like the last 15 years. I just kind of fell into it to start with, but then from there, every time I look for a new job, I look for one within the construction industry. I don't know if it's a case of better the devil you know.
Yeah,
But
probably.
Once you've kind of learned an industry, your skills, well, the skills that I have part of my role, you know, dealing with clients and such, like I can take pretty much anywhere, but I like the industry and I like the people that you deal with. You know, you can deal with such a wide variety of people, so I just stuck at it.
I think you've hit on a point there, the whole transferable skills thing. I think all of us have the skills that we could pick up and move into any particular industry, right? And that's the one thing about the construction space is, you know, that it's becoming so connected, digitally supported, etc., that a lot of our skills can be transferred across. I mean, Shamaila, when you started out, what did you think you were going to move into the construction space? You had a market researcher hat on, but how did you find moving into construction specifically?
It's interesting because now that I think of it, I think my previous experience, not particularly within construction, but always something to do with a company that has a factory. So technically being on site. So I've previously worked for the Linde Group, which is primarily oxygens and nitrogen and, you know, still having a factory. Then there was a brief period where I worked for Toyota. Again, that is still a manufacturing facility. And again, when I come here and when I, especially last week when I was at the site, at the test facility, it gives a similar experience. And it was sort of going back to the time when I used to go to those to those workplaces. So this construction as an industry, yes, it's a completely new industry, but experience-wise, it's somewhat similar because I can relate to my experiences before. The way I got into construction industry, yes, it is. I initially thought it would be male-dominated because obviously the Linde and Toyota were predominantly male-dominated by the nature of the work that they do. I think construction now isn't technically that male-dominated, or so I feel.
Good. Well, at least you feel that way, which is a step in the right direction.
There might not be as many women doing groundwork to start off with, but I guess I think we're eventually getting there. I think I forgot your question though.
What have you found? What have you found since moving over? But so I mean, if you've been working with the BBA for over 6 months now, I think. Yeah, just over 6 months. What is your biggest learning been? What has surprised you about moving into the space?
I think flexibility and working around the schedule that I have rather than a typical 9 to 5. No, you need to do this at this time and this at this time. No, but if you can manage it the way you can, then it's fine. I mean.
And Deborah, looking at your track record of really being at the heart of the industry, how have things changed? How do you see things have changed from, you know, when you originally moved? Because for myself, I have only been in the space for 3 years. Since I started the BBA, I was never in the construction space before. My background is hotels and food and nice things, pretty things, you know. So this was also a real learning curve. So how have you seen things change over the years that you've been working in the space?
Well, I think that what we probably hit kind of rock bottom as far as quality goes. I think we've kind of we're going full circle. So, you know, like I was saying before, it used to be that you had a city and guilds, you had a real sort of apprenticeship and so forth. And I think we're going back towards that now. And I think that is really, really important. And I think going back to the days when a trade in construction was it was something to be proud of, and so it should be. And I think we are heading back towards that now. And I've seen that go really sort of almost full circle. I would also say, you know, obviously the things that have happened, you know, things like Grenfell have really massively changed the industry. And there's so much more of a focus now on quality and safety. And of course, the most important thing is sustainability, which all of the main contractors and the product manufacturers now are doing their utmost to push sustainability. And you know, the construction industry's got a massive role to play in that, because we're a big impact.
Yeah.
Buildings are a big, and how they're used it's a massive impact on climate change and, carbon footprint and so forth. So I think it's exciting times to be in the construction industry.
Yeah, it
it's
is. It very
change.
much is. I think I was just thinking about Charlotte's background in the forensic science. I mean, to a degree, we're almost becoming forensic in our search for quality and, knowing what you're building and knowing what that product does because of bigger things like, bigger tragedies like Grenfell and others, So Charlotte, maybe not so far removed from what you studied, that you obviously have something that you enjoy. What has been your biggest surprise about working in this space? I mean, what do you find enjoyable? What have you enjoyed like learning about it?
I think I didn't ever think, oh my God, I'm female going into a male dominated role. That never once occurred to me, but it's like crazy how different it is to what you expect. Like before I started this role, construction was just building sites that you drive past. Whereas there's so much more going on in the background and so many people in the background working on the products that are on that building site and making sure that they're fit for purpose, basically. And that never even crosses your mind when you think about construction. It's normally just the hard hats on the building site.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask the same question to you, Emily. What are the things that you still enjoying or learning every day, even after having worked in the space for a while? What are the things that still surprise you?
The reason why I stick around, I mean, every industry evolves, doesn't it? But kind of what Deborah was saying, that we've got such a journey to go on. 14, 15 years ago, when I first kind of come into the construction world, we wasn't talking about things being sustainable or environmentally friendly. It wasn't on the agenda. I mean, it was coming, but it really wasn't there. So that's kind of what keeps me here. I think we're all striving for a better world in one way or another, aren't we? And if we can all play our tiny little part in doing so, then it's great. And like I said, I think we're on a real journey with that now, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and one of the big things that we hear about often is this struggle for skills and skill shortage and all that kind of thing. And we were doing, towards the end of last year, we were running a little campaign around careers in construction, but almost taking away the stigma that it is just hard hats. And it's for something, if you don't do well at school, well, then you can go and build a wall, but it's becoming so advanced and so interesting, and so that it's actually overtaking a lot of other things, stereotypical careers. Now, for myself, the thing that I struggled with is knowing how all the dots kind of connect and knowing what role I play. There's so much opportunity. So what I want to stay with you, Emily, what if you could tell your younger self something about the industry, what would you tell yourself about a potential career in this space? And I'm going to come to all the rest of you as well with the same questions, so start thinking.
I think a bit like Charlotte, I never anticipated going into this thinking I was going to get a career. When I started, like I say, 14, 15 years ago, it was just a job at that point. And I must admit, that first day turning up, I was so nervous because I genuinely did think it was still office based, but I thought it was just going to be an office full of men. And, I wasn't going to be valued. My viewpoint wasn't going to be appreciated. And honestly, I couldn't have been more wrong. But I think you do think like that, like you say, because you're constantly thinking of the hard hats in a very, very male orientated environment. But as we've said, there's so much in construction, it doesn't necessarily always mean that. So what I probably would have just told myself just to chill out. You'll be fine. Like as if you go into any industry, you'll learn as you go. That's all you need, to have an open mind, and you'll learn as you go.
Yeah. And Shabala, you spoke about flexibility. What would you tell your younger self?
As Emily said, everything's going to be fine. You'll learn eventually. You'll learn the technical aspects. Oh, you'll hear about them. You'll be fine. We'll be fine.
You spoke about the flexibility, but you're a mom, you've got family life to juggle and all that kind of thing. Does the space kind of enable you to do that well, to be able to work, and manage all these different roles that you play, both at work and at home?
And yeah, it does. And I think my son, he is a bit of a technical person. I think you know about that more than anyone else. And he's interested in a lot of aspects of test that are carried out. So initially when I started, he used to ask me a lot of questions. And once I was reading this magazine I got from the office, and he started reading up on how different materials, I think it was moss and algae, to be used for something, and that got him really interested. And he sometimes wishes that I wasn't doing a webinar and rather going to the test facility and doing tests and telling him more interesting stories of what kind of tests happen. So I think that sort of having an impact on a 10-year-old, and they start thinking, because obviously these aspects, till somebody close to you doesn't work in an environment, you wouldn't necessarily find out. And now that if he ever has a conversation with someone in school, that's where it's like, building materials, the bricks, that's where they're tested. That's where my mom works. So
amazing. I love that.
Sort of something that he can relate to on a day-to-day basis when he goes to school, sort of the structure and that. So I think it's like a proud moment that he can talk about. And I think especially him, that's what I'd say. If you're intrigued by something, just go on with what you're intrigued by. And
love that.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, do you believe in serendipity and things happening the way they want to? Because I mean, if you never thought you'd end up where you are, you're happy where you are, I mean, do you or would you, if you had the chance, would you take a different direction? Is there something you'd do differently?
No, I highly believe in everything happens for a reason. Like whatever you think you're gonna do when you're younger, like you haven't done that for a reason. Like you're on this journey for a reason, and I can honestly say, like, it's been really positive for me. So I'm glad that reason, whatever it may be, happened. But
amazing. And Deborah, coming to you, what would you tell your younger self now about the changing construction space, and someone who's considering a career but thinking, oh, not my bag, I never would really get in there?
Oh, I mean, I think there's just such a wide range of opportunities within construction. And what I would say is that everybody is so passionate about it. I mean, maybe the old saying, an Englishman's home is his castle, but, construction and buildings in the UK, especially, it's just, it's a really emotive subject, but there's so much, that you can do, from being an architect, to being an innovator who invents new products, and marketing, communications, actually physically doing the do. I mean, there's just so many brilliant people who work in construction in the UK, and women as well, and more and more women. And I've seen more and more women grow it, in the industry over the years. And I love it when you see, I remember doing, we used to sponsor a skills competition. And I remember the first female winner that we had, a young lady called Sandy. And she now employs 5 painters and decorators in her own company.
Oh,
so
amazing.
I just go, just look at her, how successful she is. And she's now taking on other people, and mentoring them in the industry as well. So, I just think it's such an exciting industry. It's just so full of passion. Go for it. You'll always find your tribe when you come into construction.
That's it. I think nothing's off limits, and that's the exciting thing. It is open to anything that you turn your hand to. Ladies, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I've loved it. We could carry on all day, but I'm sure our viewers would need a bit of a tea break before their next meeting. So thank you for chatting. Really appreciate all of you, and appreciate your time. Happy Women in Construction Week, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.